Yeah, I've been in the internet space for about 15 years. Fortunately, seen the start of 2000 to what's happening today. I've been part of the OLX journey from the scratch since last 6 years. And we are also one of the brands which actually did more offline than online, being an online brand. So it's like interestingly different, but great to be on the panel. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And finally, Zaheer from Unilever, if you could come up and tell us again a couple of things about yourself, and then we can kick off with the important stuff. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Zaheer from HUL. I lead digital media for HUL in India. And for the last 10 years, I've been running around between marketing, advertising, technology, and then back to advertising and technology. I don't know between all these three where I am. But a lot of exciting stuff happening in terms of putting the content horse before the digital media. So let's talk about that a little bit more. And I'm sure we can not just have a panel discussion amongst us, but a discussion with you guys as well.
Absolutely. So the rule is, as we go forward, is that this has to be useful for the audience. So we'd like your experiences to lead us into learnings around how digital content can be helpful in the businesses when people take this away from the room. Deepali, if I can start with you. So when I was chatting to you earlier, I said that I think you probably have the easiest job out of all of the panel members because you have a whole spectrum of content opportunities that you can draw on, and that makes your life very simple. So what do you do on the other 4 days of the week?
Nothing. I only travel and holiday. Okay, not really. I think from a marketing perspective, the fact that all your audience is constantly looking for information online makes a life easy because we don't have to do the first part of trying to get our customers onto the online platforms ever. We also have 178,000 members. And we know that almost all of them are online. We know that 65% of them are on Facebook, and so it's a very interesting journey for us. We are one of those rare brands whose open rates on email, because we do fantastic work in terms of sending them offers, is up to 30%. 50% of our reservations come online. So that's on the member side. And if I were to now take this on to the prospects to whom we need to sell our product, we sell a 25-year-long holiday membership, actually. Now, that's where the challenge starts. Everybody is also equally in the travel industry, in the holiday space, has access to the same content that I have. So the challenge starts there, which is that how do you ensure that the value that you add as a brand is seen to be the value which gets associated only with you and not with the other brands? And how do you ensure that the integration that you do on the content side for the consumer is seen to be a value addition by the customer and it's not run-of-the-mill content? So the challenge is that I can't actually put out any content. It needs to be delivered specially and it needs to be different. So for example, we tend to do a lot of innovations therefore on the content side. One of the things that's worked very well for us, because we're a family-centric brand and we realize that children is the best methodology to get to the parents, we've actually launched a travel e-zine for children, and it is completely done by children. So it's a complete UGC program that we're running. It's probably a world's first travel e-zine only for children, and we've kept it completely online. When the submission process, the parents are involved, and that's when the brand gets integrated. And we have a twofold job. We want to propagate the idea of vacation ownership, which is on the education side, and we also want to talk about the new destinations and the brand therefore. So the challenge is that we are looking at 3 or 4 different kind of content ideas simultaneously. Costs are a constraint, huge constraint, because just to give you a perspective of what we do about 50 to 60 videos in a year. We produce close to 5 different posts, creative elements, whatever you call it, a day. So that's about 2,000 elements in a year. And to get a team and get the speed out, and yet keep the consistent experience out, is a challenge that we face at Club Mahindra. We do a decent job, I think.
Thank you. I'm sure you do. I hope we'll have enough time to touch a little bit on UGC a little bit later. But Charu, Can you just tell us a little bit about how you would handle that volume of content coming out from one of your clients? Because that's a lot of work over a long period of time and very intensive.
So I think a very important thing to remember is that if you go back a few years, I'll go back to the advertising days when digital wasn't around and everybody was an advertiser. Everybody liked to write copy, right? The entire world understood advertising. Then came mobile phones with cameras and everybody became a journalist. Okay, so now I think the challenge we face today is everybody believes they are content developers, content writers, and that includes agencies, that includes clients. Everyone is sitting there and churning out a lot of content. And I think the first step is to step back and say, is so much quantity the right metric to it? Or is it the relevance and the contextual content creation that becomes more important? And I think because everyone can't be a journalist because they have a camera, everyone who can write can't be writing content. And I think the first thing to do there is we have content curators. So we actually look at where should the right kind of content come from. Pretty much like your role today on the panel, right? So you are the curator for this panel. You're going to bring about a lot of relevance. You have 5 speakers on the panel. If you were not around, we'd be talking about so many different things. And each one of us will want to talk about different angles and aspects of it and not stick to the context. So I think that's the first thing that we would look at understanding is what is the objective of the brand? And content can actually fulfill different objectives. It can be a really powerful influencer. But in influencing, you've got to understand, are you trying to shape the brand and its values? That's today's topic, for example. I mean, how can you create brand value? Or are you looking at content actually driving your sales? And I think you need to look at this with the other arms of digital as well. So content can't do everything for you, and that's very important to understand. Because in the older world as well, if you put out an ATL campaign, you did not expect sales to go up immediately just because you had television ads on screen. So I think content is not going to drive everything for you. So it's very important to understand the objectives and create content around that objective. So that's the way we would curate it. For example, do you need a sociologist? Do you need a psychologist to it? Do you need some research insights into understanding what content is going to drive this right? And I'll give you 2 examples. One is Label, which is a very interesting content platform for Louis Philippe. So if you look at it, it has nothing much to do with Louis Philippe on Label. Label is very contextual in terms of connecting with the right audience, with the right kind of experiences that they're looking at. And on the other, sorry, you had a question.
So creating the relevance for the consumer.
Relevance in the areas of their interest. So therefore also, look at the new trend. People today have actually started connecting with a much wider universe around them. It's beyond borders, right? It's a huge universe I have. However, as a consumer, I still want to connect with that universe in solitude, in a way. So it's me and my device. So I'm connecting with this very large universe with solitude. What does that mean? That means that I need content, which is actually going to it's going to arouse my curiosity. It's something completely new for me. And I become the person who has this little spotlight I walk around with. So I become the hero in my universe. I send it out to people because I believe I'm going to be looked up to in that universe. So I think that kind of content becomes very, very appropriate and relevant. So on the other hand, if I look at something like a category like cement, where Ultratech, which is one of the leading brands in the country, Ultratech has created something called the Ultratech Studios, which again goes beyond talking about cements to people. It isn't about how do you build a house, what is the right cement, where do you buy it from. It's not all of that. It goes way beyond that. It's a brand that talks to the house builder about hand-holding the house builder, really saying, we understand you want to buy a house, let's help you through the entire journey.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I think that's the approach we would take. So it isn't so much about the quantum of it, it's about the quality of what the content does for you.
Okay. Sujatha, Coke, a very well-recognized brand, global leader. This is easy stuff, surely. This is very straightforward for you to pick up some content from somewhere else and just dub it, rebadge it, and make it happen.
You'd think that, but no. India being a market the way it is, we actually look at content locally. Of course, we have a lot of examples that we get from our global world, But what we definitely do try to do is create local content and make that relevant. And for us, what drives brand value, we actually call it the 4 principles, or the 4 Bs as I call it. For content to drive my brand, I would say it needs to be, number 1, share-worthy. Number 2, simple enough to get across in people's short attention spans today. 3, be disruptive, because if you're different, that's where you make a difference. And 4, be with a purpose. So how does a brand like Coke do that? We try and look beyond what we do, which is actually provide refreshment. And I'll give one example, which most of you would be aware of, and that's Coke Studio. So for you, Ian, that's our music platform that we've come about, and we're in the 4th season. So the interesting to note is when we started 4 years ago, we thought this was going to be a straight route traditional media. But what we've seen over the past 4 years is that actually more than 90% of our viewership is coming from the digital world. The teens today, the youth today do not watch TV. So everything that happens on the digital world. Our YouTube views have crossed millions, impressions, storytelling, everything comes from that. We try to do that and be relevant in the content world. And I'll just give you another small example. Even for us, everything is about creating moments of optimism and happiness. So recently, some of you might have seen a video we put up, which was called the India-Pakistan Small World Machine, where we put one of our coolers in India, one of our coolers in Pakistan, and allowed people to just walk across, share a Coke with someone across in the neighbor, and spread a moment of happiness. This was something we did for the first time only in the digital world. We've never done that. But the goodwill that it spread, the talk that it got, the number of YouTube's views that we got, we wouldn't have even got that in traditional media. So I'd say no, we definitely don't take what's there in global. We do use it, we have great stuff, but we definitely create content of our own that's relevant here.
Okay. Amarjit, you're heading up a very successful listing site, which is doing great business. And surely once you've got your consumers hooked, they're always gonna come back to OLX. What's the rationale for delivering content to your consumers when it's a very functional transaction? How do you put the emotional element into this?
Yeah, so we have actually entered market, like India, in which people never used to buy or sell pre-owned goods or used goods. So I think there was a lot of latent demand. So the earlier part of our kind of content creation mostly happened on TV and the major audience, where we actually wanted to go down to the larger audience to communicate our proposition, as well as connect them with what they can benefit from. I think in a way, it became so successful that if you look at the latest World Cup that's going on, till yesterday we had not spent any money on that at all. And in India-Pakistan match, some of you might remember that when Pakistan lost, they said "Patake OLX pe bech de." So that, I think, content was created not by us but by users. So I think the brand reached such deep understanding with the users that now we don't need to create content. Actually, in some cases, whenever something significant happens in the political or sporting or social side, people create content for us. So I think we were very lucky. I'm not saying that we probably planned it out very well. We were very, very lucky to be able to kind of manage in the last 4 years. But what we do right now in the last for the couple of years, what we've been working on is how to make content specific for the medium. I think it's various mediums, even if you look at YouTube. I think a lot of people run the same ad that they have on TV and on YouTube. So we went different. We said, let's create something on the channel, for that channel. So last year we did something like creating a YouTube ad, which actually, if you can skip the ad after 5 seconds, if you don't like it. So we created an ad in which, in the first 5 seconds, the OLX proposition was delivered. That was the first time in India that was done. And the latest version of something attempt that we've done recently is a 4-minute content that we created. It's a story which is a bit emotional. I don't know if anybody has seen it. It's about a song, a story about a cricketer who left couldn't follow his dream. And that, I think, is the kind of content we are creating to resonate with the millions of people who actually have gone through similar experiences. So I think the question for us is that, is the content relevant? I think which is the point which was raised. Is the content unique? I think a lot of time we create content which is similar from everybody. Are we telling a story? And is the story very, very transparent, or there is a mystery around the story? Because the content needs to be really good for people to be engaged. And I think the bottom line for any content which we have realized is that it has to be shared. If it is not shared, it is not, it's not great content. So that means, I think I would say that only one way to measure content creation or content success is by the organic spread of that content, not by the monies we spent on medium and so on. And I think that is the pure measure of content we look at. And I think at OLX, we're trying to, still making attempts to make it better and better. I don't think we get it right all the time, but a lot of times we have done. So that's...
So when we talked earlier, I told you I was going to try and get this in. So I'm going to try my Hindi on you. This 4-minute commercial is Kimat Bhi Kuch Kimati. Correct? Is that?
Yeah, Keemat bhi or kuch keemti bhi. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
I think your Hindi is better
Good
than
stuff.
mine. No, just joking.
And this, because you were congratulated in the room from a couple of your colleagues who said that this was really getting deep into their hearts and giving a real brand value to the platform.
Absolutely. I think it's an attempt from our side to look at, I think we are a buying and selling platform, which I think if you look at all ads, everybody is saying buying and selling. So the whole idea is, at OLX, it is not about the transaction. It's about something you get more than the transaction. You can get a job from a friend who met you on while you're buying or selling something. You can make a partner. You can go for bike rides with them. And I think that campaign about Kuch Keemat Bhi, Kuch Keemti Bhi is an attempt to do that. And I think it seems to have found resonance in a lot of people. But I think touches the emotional chord of a lot of people. And I think the latest ad on the cricket also has done a similar thing for us. Yeah.
Okay. Zaheer, conspicuous in your silence at the moment, but Unilever do a vast amount of content creation across a huge raft of different platforms and covering all of the brands. And as an organization, that must be an enormous task to keep track of within the digital realms of the Unilever organization. How would you advise somebody who's trying to do that in their own organization? What learnings can you give us as to how you track and watch and curate and measure all of the activities you do?
So, and thank you for asking that question, because that's exactly what I intended to speak about. And I'm an absolute fan of all the examples that were given by my colleagues here on the panel. Just to give a context, a company like Hindustan Unilever, which is more of a broadcaster-heavy kind of a company, where always the challenge was that what came first, whether it's the media cart which comes first or whether it's the content horse. And for us to put the content horse before the media cart and become India's largest beauty publisher. In BeBeautiful.in, we have the largest number of online beauty interest people that we reach out to. In terms of the Kan Khajura taste, in which we heard in the morning, Rahul speak about it a little bit. We reach out to about 30 million people in the media dark states of Bihar, Uttar Pradesh. For us to become publishers, there were, and I think coincidentally 5 of us on the panel, and there is exactly a 5 bullet point approach that I wanted to talk about that we did. So the first bullet point is that we need to look at brands as a service when they come online. So no longer a product is a product when it comes onto the online world. So for example, Lakme ceases to be a cosmetic product but becomes a beauty service when it comes online. So the first bullet point is to understand the construct of brand as a service. The second is to, what that service should be is hygiene. So the first construct is to be able to answer all the queries that a consumer is asking about that category or about that product or about what that product stands for, and it's almost full. So whatever the consumer is searching, whatever his intent is, and you are able to create content to be able to answer that in a unique way, is what is hygiene to us. The second and the third bullet point rather is about creating a hub of what would be around consumer passions, whether it be travel, whether it be what is happening in terms of cricket or music. So to be able to collect all kind of content around consumer passion areas and put it at one place, which the brand can address with a differentiated manner, is almost a hub construct. And the fourth bullet point is therefore then the hero construct. So when the moment arises, when it's a launch, when it's, really your brand needs to be repositioned, relaunched in the market, that's when a hero moment happens for the marketing team. And that's when you come out with the hero part of the content. The fifth bullet point is actually the holy grail of the whole content marketing piece for brand leverage, and I think I'm a huge fan of what OLX did on the India Park match. So in digital marketing, we have already addressed who do we talk to, with what do we talk to, with what asset, or with what content piece do we talk or reply back to them. We have already addressed where we can target them, but I think the holy grail of content marketing is when do we put out that content, the precise moment, the precise conversation which makes that piece of content relevant. And a lot of amount of technology, a lot of amount of analytics would be required to analyze which is that right moment for the brand to interact and position itself in the right way. So this is my 5-point construct, and to repeat that, it's like almost brand as a service, hygiene, hub, hero, and when the moment arises.
So in terms of return on investment, I guess I could direct this as well at Deepali. If a consumer, if one of your customers engages so well with a piece of content that they have a desire to change it or make it their own by creating a piece of UGC, how do you react to that? Do you feel that's a form of flattery, or do you use that as a feedback for you to be able to improve what you're doing for the future?
We actually encourage it. We have, so I won't actually name the programs here, but we have two strategic approaches to encouraging UGC. One is where it is completely in the brand context, in the brand format, where it is guided by us, where formats are given to the customers, and we encourage the brand interaction, therefore, and create engagement in that manner. And second is with our members, where there is no branded format. We just encourage them. We have 42 resorts across India and abroad. So we just encourage them to do the photo ops, and share whatever they produced with their friends. And my only focus there is to ensure that the word Club Mahindra is mentioned somewhere. Because if that happens, we have 100,000 customers holidaying with us every year. And if each one of them actually puts out even one photograph with us tagged in it, it's a fantastic job for marketing. So there are two cornerstones. We encourage UGC considerably. It's just that one is a very guided, drive that we do, and the other is completely unguided. But that's where the most effort goes, in the unguided one, because the whole offline-online integration, as we call it internally, to encourage them when they're inside our resorts, when they're holidaying with us, when there are magical moments, when there are, at the delivery point, when they're extremely happy with us, is when we would want them to share with the world what they're experiencing with us.
Can I add something to what Deepali said? I'm a huge fan of Mahindras, and I would love to create my own content. I've got lovely stories around Mahindras because I visited a lot. But today's Indian consumer is more a content consumer, not a creator. So I think we're a little lucky out here because we sit and create the content. And the next generation, I believe, is going to be creating a lot of content, unlike this generation, which is just consuming it at this point. And I think once we start creating a lot more content, we run the risk of a lot of things out there which may not be suitable to the brand. And I think that's where we need to moderate that content really closely as well, and very sharply. So that may not be ideal for us to allow consumers to start creating content as and when they feel, at least a few years from now. We have to be cautious about that.
I think the experience there, Charu, is category dependent. I think
I agree.
In the travel industry, ultimately the content is all the pictures that you guys put up on Facebook when you're holidaying, whether it's food, whether it's yourself, whether it's something interesting that you've seen.
I agree. It is category specific.
So this is very category specific. So UGC in the travel space works extremely well for us. It's just that I think all the travel companies would just want their brand name there. I just want the hashtag Club Mahindra there.
No, I'd like to add to that because I do agree with you. But strangely enough, we've seen even in a brand like ours, when we do brand engagements initiatives that we do. For example, we have one called Sprite Till I Die, where we've encouraged teenagers to come and imbibe the values of the brand in their own way, whether it's music, dance, whatever they feel. And we've seen such amazing UGC that's come out of that. And the impressions that we've got have crossed what we would have done had we created on our own. It's crossed 1 billion impressions, and we just see it growing season to season. So I think that, even in categories where you least expect it, consumers can surprise us.
And I think the other example in the travel space again is the bloggers. Earlier you only had the travel journalists, who millions follow. But now there is a lot of people sprucing up who in their area of influence may have 1,000 regular followers or 2,000 regular followers. And all those are extremely valuable to us because the kind of reviews that they do are very interesting for us. TripAdvisor is a medium that we follow and look at very regularly. And to me, that is also, in a manner of speaking, whether you call it UGC or whether you call it a review mechanism, but it's a free world and people will write what they want to write there. And that's also something we track very closely and encourage the good experiences to be put out there.
So we touched on UGC. UGC, if we get it right, and if we can stimulate the right reaction, and if we can get the right stuff out there, can be an enormously powerful way of brand advocacy. However, it's also very cheap. It doesn't cost anything, so it's about getting the right stimulation out there. That's right. Your 40, 50 pieces of content that you distribute each year, plus the other activities that you do, this stuff is expensive, eh?
Yes. So I was sharing with you earlier and just want to share it with the audience. In fact, at Time Media 2 years ago, they had the Southwest Airlines CMO down from US, and I was talking to her. They do about 250 videos in a year, and 60% of that is UGC. In India, what we've seen with our target audience is that videos is not something that Indians are comfortable doing as UGC. Pictures, they're extremely comfortable with. Written word, they're extremely comfortable with. But video blogging or videos is something that still is coming of age. So there I'd agree with Charu that Indians will get there someday, and I think video blogging and videos as UGC will come of age in future. But currently all the video work that happens is an expensive proposition, yes. There we need to be cautious on how we spend the money. But the thing is, if as a marketeer, you don't just use it for the digital medium and you use the shoot opportunity in multiple fold, and you look at one shoot opportunity for producing multiple content which you use over the year and not just at that quarter, I think that's when you start seeing economies of scale.
So, Deepali and Ian, sorry, but I had a little bit different point of view around UGC and how we create brand value with content in the digital world, right? If that is the question, then I have a little bit of hesitation in using user-generated content all the time to build brand value. Because to my mind, content marketing has to do one of these four. It has to, either be able to inspire the consumer, be able to educate the consumer, or convince her, or maybe just entertain her. If these were the four objectives of, let's say, what your content was supposed to do for your brand, then I think you would need a construct of this a singular thing that we do in marketing, right, which is STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So you need to plan out what that content is, build that content, and that's, I think, Charu, you were also trying to say. But if your content plan was to address the queries that the consumers have, your plan was to address their passions, and your plan was to create that hero campaign for yourself, then I think a properly targeted approach with your content, which is pre-designed, pre-developed, with one objective in mind out of those four that I said.
So you agree, it's not either or, it's a combination of both. And that's what we try and do. And our segments, first of all, is members and new prospects, and then a UGC and a branded content, or even native sometimes, is a different strategic approaches that you would use for both the segments.
I'll give you a good example actually, because we talked about us doing something in that cricket match. It was not us actually. So you thought it was OLX doing it, but it was not OLX. So that I think is pure UGC. I think you can't control it. We just hope that it is is done well. And I think we are lucky we got it right. There's another attempt we have did with where we have used UGC, but we have actually, in a way curated that. Not curated that, but in fact we did a campaign called Sell and Tell, purely digital campaign. But what we did was we reached out to people who were selling on OLX, and we said that tell us your story about the success at OLX, and we will share your story with the rest of the people. So we got almost like 700 responses. We converted them into bit strips of more comical, and we used digital media to spread that. And I think that's what the point you said. How do you inspire people from that content? Because the stories were so genuine. I think it worked very well. And the third is when you don't use UGC content at all, when you develop your own content with partners and stuff, I think that's a completely different ballgame. So, but I think UGC is very powerful, but it could be used both ways. I mean, I don't think they can. I agree a bit with Zaheer that I think you can't. It could be a little dangerous if you let UGC drive completely everything. You need to be, I think, invite people to do that. We recently had a lot of people actually making TV ads and putting on YouTube, and they're replicating our TV ads that we do, and they're putting it on YouTube on their own experiences. And we never asked for that also. And they're putting it on a Facebook page and so on and so on. So it happens. Sometimes it is good, sometimes it is not.
Which suggests you're getting your brand positioning right, which is nice.
I think the reality is it does happen, so we can't say as a brand that we only want content that we generate ourselves. But absolutely, there has to be some way that you monitor, and it's both. You giving out the content and taking what the consumer gives as well.
Okay, so we started late. The clock started even later. So we've done about 35 minutes. We had 30. So what I'm going to ask you now is just 2 sentences to the audience to help them to take away from today something that they can input into their content for their own businesses, be they a brand or a startup or a media owner. Do you want to go?
Maybe I can
do you
start
go first?
from here, and then I think. So I guess for us, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that in the world of clutter, especially when a lot of people are communicating similar messages across, I think the brand can distinguish itself or differentiate itself very well if you go via the platform of developing content and then figuring out content basically for different mediums. I'm a big fan of making message the medium where you tailor the content to a specific medium, and I think developing it well, and I think testing and trying and linking it to your overall purpose of your brand, because it's very critical. How do you do that? Connecting it with your brand, and then making your story unique, making it different from everybody, making attempts which are a little bold sometimes, be very relevant to what you are doing, and creating a mystery around it, and I think making it a bit emotional. I think it works, and we are just on that journey right now, and that's where we are.
My 2 points quickly. We've agreed, all of us, that content is key. So in that, I'd just like to say 2 things. In creating content that actually builds value to your brand, never underestimate the power of a story well told. That would be really key. And the second is always attempt to connect with human emotions. If you do 2 of those things, I think you actually deliver content that does all the 4 Bs that I said earlier. Thank you.
I'll use this, yeah. 2 quick ones from me would be, I think it's very, very important. I started by saying that, I'll end by saying it again, that I think we need to peg the right objective to this content creation. I think it's very exciting, and the entire gamut can be from cheap content to really expensive video content, for example, but all that is not important. What's really important is, why do you really want to create this content? What is it going to do for you? Assign the right metrics to it, assign the right measures at the end of it. And I think you have to keep putting those benchmarks and milestones as you go along. That's really important. And I think a second layer to it would be, how do you get your content discovered? If your content is not discovered, it's just completely useless, and a lot of money and effort behind it.
I think my learning is that I wouldn't do the things that I'm doing in a travel company, in a financial service company, and I wasn't doing them. I think each one of us needs to look at our category and then look at the journey of the customer for that category to say, what is he seeking out of digital medium? Map that experience out, and then map the content pieces out to say, okay, where can we add value to his life or her life? Because I think more than creating the value for the brand, if we genuinely feel for the customer, where if his need is to get information, then provide him information. If his need is to get entertainment, then provide him entertainment. And I think if we live with his journey And also then tailor your content to whether he's consuming it on the mobile device or whether he's going to consume it on the web device. And be very conscious of what content you're creating for which devices. That's when I think ultimately the brand creates value, because you're adding genuine value to a consumer's life. And invariably then that flows back into equity for the brand.
Thank you. Zaheer?
So to create brand value, content is king and discovery is queen. And how do you get to that is by following brilliance at basics, by having a hub of consumer passions, by having a hero asset which you can deploy at the right moment. So I think that's pretty much, at the cost of repeating myself, is what I was trying to say.
Fantastic. Amarjit, Sujatha, Charu, Deepali, and Zaheer, thank you very much. You've been fabulous. Thank you very much to the audience as well. Sorry for no questions.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Can we have a round of applause for our panelists, please? Thank you so much.